And now it's time for some news, and I want to give you my 2 cents on this whole Battlefront 2 controversy. And as you all know, I like to play games, but I don't have a lot of time to play games anymore. So usually I pick a game or two a year and really put some time in on it. And I was really hoping to do that here with Star Wars Battlefront 2, but I've decided not to purchase the game based on EA's business practices related to it. So the bottom line with this, if you haven't heard what's going on, is that the first Battlefront game, which I also purchased, ended up costing about $100 when you factored in all the add-on expansion packs that they had and everything else. And players felt like, it was a good game, the graphics were nice, but it was very limited in its overall gameplay. It was a multiplayer-only game. There wasn't a lot of depth to it. There was a couple different game modes, but really, I don't think rose to the value of what they were charging for it. And when they announced Battlefront 2, they said to players, hey, we understand you all paid a lot of money for the first game. That was our first effort. We want to reward that with a new game that's not going to have any add-on packs. You're going to get the full experience for $60. And a lot of people were very excited about that, myself included. But then it became apparent that, of course, they had another plan in mind, which was to factor in some microtransactions that players could do to get themselves ahead in the game. But some of those microtransactions involve the equivalent, in my opinion, of gambling, where you're paying for these virtual crates, and inside of the virtual crates might be an item that will give you an edge in some of these multiplayer battles. And it was also some microtransactions involved with unlocking some of the hero characters that you might want to play in the game. And it was possible to unlock those on your own, but you'd have to put in many, many, many hours, sometimes as much as 1,200 hours by some player estimates, to really get everything that you want, that you should have paid for in the first place, to actually work in the game. I don't have that kind of time, and I really don't believe in these microtransactions and playing gambling loot crates or anything like that. So I ended up deciding not to buy Battlefront 2 this week when it came out, because I just feel like it's not a $60 game. It should be maybe costing less than that if their plan is to supplement with microtransactions. Now, what's happened, though, is that Disney's brand manager apparently called Electronic Arts, who is making this game, and told them to turn it all off because they're hurting the Star Wars brand here as a result. This was a big story. It's made its way out of the gaming press into the mainstream press. Many publications have talked about this, and it really hurts Disney right now because they're promoting The Last Jedi, which is a movie that releases next month that is hotly anticipated. So they got a slap on the wrist here at Electronic Arts, and those microtransactions will likely come back after they've done some more quote-unquote rebalancing of the game, as they say. But this got me to thinking, which is, why are games still $59? I think publishers have decided not to take any more risks here, charge a set amount of money for the game, get as much as they can get into that game for that price point, and then ding everybody with these really crazy transactional fees along the way to try to squeeze more revenue out of something. And if the game's a hit, maybe they'll make a little bit more money, but if not, they didn't risk all that much in the first place. But that hasn't been the way gaming has always been. In the past, games used to cost what they cost, and if it was a good game, the publisher would charge a little bit more money for it to try to make back all the expenses it took for them to make that good game. Let me give you an example of something like this, because I was watching the Metal Jesus Rocks channel the other day, and he was talking about Wing Commander, which is one of my favorite games of all time on the PC. And in 1991, they came up with the sequel to the original Wing Commander, called Wing Commander 2. And at this point, the game had a huge fan base. People were really excited for this game. They put a lot more into this game than they did in the first one. And they charged in 1991 about $50, $49.99 for the game. And they added some new features for people that had the hardware, namely a sound card and enough processing power, and you could get full speech while you were playing the game. So the characters would shout at you while you're in your space fighter. It was totally awesome. People hadn't seen anything so cool before. It was almost as good as a Star Wars movie, at least for us back at that period of time. Excellent game. $75 in total cost when you factor these two things together. And if you look at the 2017 equivalent cost when you factor in inflation from 1991, this game was about $137 in today's money. That's a lot of money for a game, but you know what? It was a good game. It was really well put together. The publisher knew what we wanted as fans and really gave us something that I felt at the time was worth the money, and it's a game I still play every once in a while on an emulator now. It's a fantastic title. And they added on a couple of new mission discs. So they had 2 special operations packs, I think they called them, and those were about $25 a piece, and they added a tremendous amount of new gameplay to the game and expanded on its story. Again, all in, you're spending a lot of money over time, but you got a lot for spending so much. There's a couple other examples too, like the Sega Master System had the original Phantasy Star game. Here in the US, that game cost $75 new in like 1988 or so. So that was a big hefty price to pay, but the game was good and the publishers knew they had a good game because they invested the time and money to make something that players really wanted to play. And I'm feeling now that publishers really are not taking any risks anymore. They're putting these games out at the bare minimum price, and then if it's successful, they'll make a lot of money back on microtransactions. If not, they'll be okay anyhow. And there's really no publishers that are really standing behind their work anymore. And that was what was kind of surprising about Electronic Arts, was that they really hyped this game up saying, we're going to put everything into this game and give you a great game, yet it doesn't seem like they really trust their work and are hedging their bets on the fact that they can make money off of these additional microtransactions later because they don't want to charge what the game really should cost. And maybe they should start thinking about doing that. I'm of the opinion that a lot of gamers would pay more if the game was good and worth the money, but this is the era that we're in, apparently.
This channel is brought to you by my Patreon supporters, including gold level supporters, the Black Eyed and Blues Music Hour podcast, Chris Allegretta, and Kalyan Kumar. If you want to help the channel, you can by contributing as little as $1 a month. Head over to Lon.TV/Patreon to learn more. And don't forget to subscribe. Visit Lon.TV/S.